Suppose you find yourself mysteriously in a lost island. Regardless of the events that created this situation, one thing is certain: you don't have your identity. Because your identity is no longer related to the environment. And this is a tiger. And you're afraid of the tiger because you know what it is. The image of the tiger is in relationship with your past. That's why you know it. This is a kind of a monster. And you're afraid of the monster because you know what the monster is. The image of the monster is in relationship with your past. This is a mystery, and you fear the mystery because you actually know what the mystery is. The mystery is in relationship with your past. You are afraid of the mystery because it could create possible problems. Or maybe it intrigues the mind, but the sense of preoccupation is still there. These are natural fears, and there is nothing wrong with natural fears because they are to protect us from possible threats.
And what about this? This is the unknown. Is what you don't know yet. How can you be possibly afraid of what you don't know yet? How can you be afraid of this? This is in relationship with nothing. It's not in relationship with your past. How can you define the fear of the unknown if the unknown is not compatible with anything that you know?
From here, so much struggle and friction comes. And it has been like this for over a millennium. I'm talking about the friction between the known and what will come, which is the friction between how things are now and how we would like them to be tomorrow. These two aspects of our life have actually the same face.
But we continuously forget it, creating the constant separation between the fact that sometimes we do perceive something that we know, but it is impossible to be decoded by the intellectual mind.
And then we want to translate those perceptions into language so that we can share it with our community, our family, loved ones, and so forth. From this translation, we lose our knowingness, our sensitivity, and our perceptiveness. And then those translations become archetypes, mental structures, beliefs, and then institution. And then everything is translated into collective and intimate superstition. A holographic illusion, intimately and collectively accepted. From this identity grows a psychological tool in which to maintain an illusionary known. Find the truth. And with identity comes the fear to lose your identity. And from this, we have existential fear, which is not natural at all. It is a collective intellectual illusion, and the illusion of the unknown. This is a story of a myth, the same myth that has been around for mankind for millennia. This is the myth of fear.
Every time I hear someone that says, I don't even know my fear, my personal question is that actually most of the people know exactly what their fears are, but actually they are not, they don't know how to communicate, how to express, how to share their fears, especially because first of all we have to separate what the natural fears are, meaning the fear of the criminality, whatever, if I have a tiger here, of course I'm in fear, and what we call the existential fears, such as the souls of anxiety, depression, and so on.
When you're growing up, and you have like a formation. Like, all your conditions, from since you're little, they tell you to do this, to do that. You get so used to it. So sometimes you don't know when you're even doing it. Like, for example, like you have to do good, you have to like go to college, you have to be successful, and you have to, you know, be able to pay your bills and not slack off or not do this other thing, this, you know. So you keep doing it so much you don't realize, and then you think a little like, well, wait a minute, this is not what I want to do. You know, it's like an internal fight. You know, this is how I feel. It's like internal fight. One part of me wants one thing, the other part is like fighting.
We are educated and programmed to avoid the intimate dealing with fears, and because we have to match what the society wants from us, such as fulfillment, success, and a career, and especially an identity. So we are like softwares or robots, if you like. We are programmed to build up an identity. The fakeness which is behind this mentality. What it creates is the constant separation between the need to belong to something and the need to be detached from the system, the life, the society we are living. And from this comes fear. And is a paradoxical situation. The more we try to match what other people, what we have been told to do, the more we increase internally fears. Living in an environment in which is almost forbidden to talk about fears, because if you do that, you are automatically weak.
Yeah, but I need to find out what's what my fears are. Because when I was growing up, I grew up with no religion or anything. I was raised by my dad, and my dad was pretty much, his God was money. That's it. That's all he wanted to do was money. And as that made me separate from money. I hated money. I still do, because even with my sister, my oldest sister, they didn't talk for years until my sister got real sick and she died. And my dad realized that money wasn't that important, because, you know, all those years that she lost with my sister because of stupid money. So after that, I was just like, you know, I said, all this for money, you know. My dad, this kind of person, loves money. I think he until the last minute he was alive. But that's like, my dad was a guy who was like, he always talked about fears and everything. He said the only thing I fear is being poor. So that was his thing, and he's trying to put that on me. But I never cared about that.
The problem comes when we want truly to inquire and to understand our fears and where they come from. We tend to activate this inquiry by comparing ourselves, our present moment, with what happened to us in the past. For example, by saying, the reason why I am the way I am now is the consequence of my past. That's not true. That's not true, because this is the way to become a victim of your personal fear.
Can't have a relationship with anyone if you can't have a relationship
relationship with yourself or with your fears or with even the unknown.
Yeah, exactly.
Having it constantly doesn't work so well, causes a lot of unnecessary suffering and struggling. As opposed to making it your friend, rather than running and fighting from it, working with it, understanding it.
I know, and it's a lot of work.
Is the fear of the unknown really real, or is it just something else that we're not reading or considering? In each relationship, it doesn't matter if it's with a person, or with a thing, or with a moment in time, what is our responsibility? Is our responsibility the preservation and continuation of our past, which include our fears, and the memories of our fears are in the past? Or should it be cultivated in our acceptance of the unknown, which is supposed to be our future, as our future begins right here and now?
For 3 years before from now, I've been responsible in trying to do the right thing. But I still don't feel, I don't feel happy. I feel like I kill myself. I mean, like I kill my how can I say this? I kill my spirit.
Trying to do the right thing. What is the right thing?
Well, what people say is the right thing.
The perception of self becomes neuro-linguistic identity. Then it becomes responsibility, the responsibility programmed by the system in which we live. Then it becomes the friction between the feeling of our self and what the system wants us to be. Then it becomes confusion, pressure, fight, and fear. I would like to say, from this comes an automatic question. Are we living our life, or are we living the life that the system in which we live wants us to live? Considering, for example, the matter of responsibility of what is right and what is wrong. It doesn't matter if I do my job for 10 hours a day, or for 1 hour, or if I am jobless. I mean, the main question is: are we living the life according with our sensitivity and perception of ourselves, or are we living a life that is a model suggested by the system in which we live? That's the main question. Fear comes from the activation of all of the bunch of ideas like guilt, regrets, or responsibility. But I think it's quite easy if we have to put our life, if we have to see our life like a balance, in which in a plate we have the responsibility as we know it, as we have been told about it, and in the other plate we have our psychological freedom. First of all, not really the physical material freedom, but the psychological freedom, a free mind. What will we choose? The responsibility which is mostly suggested by the environment, the background in which we live, or we will choose our personal, intimate psychological freedom. And this is extremely important. So it's more important to understand the mechanism of fear rather than the fear itself. For example, there are so many people, especially in Western countries, that are in fear to be in fear, and that's why they get depressed.
I was reading your post on Facebook, and I was just getting a feeling I should participate.
Okay, you just had a feeling. You're brave enough to go into your fears and share that?
Yeah, something inside of me was pushing me to.
Fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown.
The unknown.
Like the fear of the unknown. I was remembering since I was a kid, I was like, if I didn't know something, I wouldn't do it. Sometimes, like, my parents tried to convince me to do it. In this interview, for example, I didn't know what to expect. So I was always like, oh my God, what is going to be and what is going to happen, and should I really do it? And maybe I just don't do it, and maybe I just show up. Maybe that's better. Like this kind of fear.
But you know what?
Like,
is the classic fear of being not able to match the expectations we had, right? For example, the fear of being not able to say what exactly we wanted to say, the fear of being not even able to feel what exactly we wanted to feel. And we can call this fear basically insecurity, right? Behind insecurity there is the fear of the unknown. Okay?
okay.
But if you think about it, the unknown is something that we don't know yet. Right?
Yeah, right.
So how can we fear possibly something that we don't know yet? Fine. Suppose that for some mysterious reason you find yourself in a lost island in the middle of nowhere and you are alone in the island. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
So, in this situation, what you fear is just the present moment, meaning to say just natural fear. And you are not anymore in relationship with your past. Your past in that situation is just a memory in your mind.
Or your identity.
Or your identity. But every action of comparing yourself with your past, it doesn't work in the lost island. It's not helpful.
Okay.
So, if we consider these two examples, the lost island and the example of the life you are living right now, what is the difference?
That I compare things with my past.
That you
Like,
compare. And
So
and from comparison comes the suffering, confusion, and fear of tomorrow.
mhm.
Do you agree with that? Is from comparison that comes fear of the unknown and struggling and suffering or confusion? Are you agree with that?
Yeah, now it makes sense.
And so, I ask you a question now.
Yeah, let me think about it.
If you understand it, why do you compare?
That's a good question, actually.
I think the way that I can pin it down in kind of one sentence is fear of the unknown. And that's a big one for me. I haven't done a lot of things that are kind of out of my comfort zone, and they're because probably of past fears. The unknown things for me are for one, falling in love. That's a big one. Having a good, lasting, meaningful relationship that is like balanced.
It tends to be right when we wake up or right before we go to bed or something, when we're really tired and just really not paying a whole lot of attention, when we are frustrated and annoyed with each other and we feel like we're wasting time in this relationship.
Your fears, have you guys been triggering each other's fears? Have some more fears been coming up for you guys?
And I have a lot of fear. I don't want to mess up. I don't want to like kind of do what my parents did for my whole life, pretty much.
Are you really sure to fear the unknown? What is the fear?
What do you mean?
Are you sure you're afraid that the unknown is what you're afraid of?
I think so. What do you think I'm afraid of?
It's a fear of not making progress, not succeeding.
If you observe the fact that if we have some fears, the fear exists only when they are related with something, no?
Yes.
If I have, for example, if I fear a new relationship, this fear obviously is not related with the new relationship, because the new relationship is not taking place right now. It's the unfamiliar. So, am I in fear with the possibility of the new relationship, or am I in fear with what I know that could happen, that can happen tomorrow? It's quite irrelevant, because if we observe the origin of fears, existential fear in this case, and fear toward the unknown, all of those fears belong to the known field, the field that we know.
So I'm kind of just
Right.
going off of what I know.
She gets really frustrated when it doesn't go fast enough. And Jessica said already, with other words, you don't need to push it, it will come. But for her, it needs to go fast. And if that's not the case, then I think that's kind of a fear for her. It doesn't go fast enough, and if she doesn't see approval fast enough, then she starts thinking she fails, and then frustration comes, and then I try to remind her, hey, listen what Jessica said, don't push it, it will come.
Going to have to do it a couple times to really be aware of the pattern and how your mind works and falls into the usual addiction.
So when those kind of feelings comes up, maybe I could kind of ask myself questions and to see what kind of pattern I have, right? So I shall feel, just feel and observe and gradually detach myself.
The mind is fully detached, then the psyche flies.
We've gotten to a point where we can actually communicate with one another effectively. We recognize very quickly when our ego is getting in the way.
But if you observe deeply and clearly this fear takes place in the idea of the future. The fear to fail takes place in the future, is the fear of the future. But you are experiencing your relationship with yourself and with both of you, and with the present moment, in the present moment. And it is in the present moment that you are building up your future. So, how can we build up our future in our present moment if we fear to fail in the future, which is not yet here? So, I ask you, where is the fear? The fear is in the future. Or better to say, being the future not yet something real, is the fear toward the idea of the future. It's not in the present moment. And if you are afraid to fail, you cannot fully, peacefully experience the present moment. And very often we tend to pick up stuff from the past, meaning fear of something, fear to be not enough for something from the past, through comparison we do to the past, and we project this fear toward the next screen of our future. And in that way we cannot live our present. If I have to say it in an easier way, if I fear the unknown, the experiencing of fear in regard of the unknown I'm doing is connected with the known, with what I know. It's not connected with the unknown. Right?
Yes. I agree with that.
Therefore, if you want to inquire deeply in not in the manifestation of that fear that you quite know really well, how it manifests itself, but in the origin of this fear, the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
You have to inquire in what you know, which is your past, and the perception of the time you are living, and the comparison you are doing with the past, and probably something else which is not yours. Most of the time, when we fear the unknown, we are actually protecting our fears that belong only to the field of what we know. That's the main paradox.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays. Can you think and perceive and observe and inquire in your fear in regard of the unknown without the ideas and the thoughts that created that fear? There is always the friction between what is now, that could be peace, joy, with no expectation or conditioning, and what I would like things to be tomorrow. True expectations. So am I living my relationship in peace and true peace and by peace, or am I living my relationship through expectations? Because if I'm living my relationship through expectation, I will fight continuously. And I will be in fear to fail all the time. And that's not exactly what a relationship is supposed to be. A relationship is supposed to be, for example, a relationship between two people is supposed to be a relationship in which I'm free to say, I love you, but I'm not attached to the expectation to create a better relationship tomorrow. And on that day, you became like, your relationship becomes like a river. It doesn't matter where the river goes, tomorrow, the after tomorrow. Is more important the river rather than the destination of the river. a self-observation constantly. Otherwise, there is identification. I may identify myself with my wife because my wife belongs to me. I identify myself with my husband because my husband is my property, and he wants a better future. Am I struggling so hard to make him happy or to make her happy? But that's the way to avoid the experiencing of the relationship now. Like you are watching your relationship as a spectacle in a movie theater, and you are watching the relationship as a movie on the screen. And you expect that the movie will be more pleasant. But don't forget that you are the movie projector of that relationship.
The whole world is our monastery. Our jobs are our monastery jobs and our temple jobs, and these teachers that we get to access for free on YouTube or that we get to access through the books, these are our, monastery or temple masters in a way. And even those people, Diego's right, even those people we have to let go because they're just a crutch in the end.
First mantra is Ta.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
There is one website called ACC, A Star Command Crew. I used to go there after being suicidal during 2012 when I was desperately seeking for answers outside of me. When I was so confused with fears, overflooded with it, as I have shared in our interview, and after I outgrew it and came to end the fear project, and now, what appears to me right now is that I do realize how many people, very, very confused people, are there in ACC community, ignoring the source of their fears while seeking for illusory answers.
Do you really want ascension? Do you really want bliss? And do you really want the fifth dimension? Buy our End of Fear spiritual products. Buy the truth. Special spiritual price, only $111.11. the thing is, people are so attached from their beliefs. They don't want to detach from their beliefs. Everybody wants information in the way that it will be to their basic foundation of their basic belief. And they want to build around that. They don't want to question their foundation. Because, yeah, of course it's important, I think, to learn about the religion and New Age and even conspiracy. It's a fact all those things are going on, but it's when people become addicted to it. You know, then it becomes their drug. Like, you meet people who are conspiracies, they're freaked out and paranoid all the time. They can't live a normal life, speaks of them, and it's really sad to see. And it's the same with New Age people. Again, it's like running to a standstill, or religious people. And they don't want to go beyond it.
Peace, love, and blood. 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 The New Age scenario and the need of spirituality and New Age, especially right now after what I call it the 2012 delusion, in which many people were expecting some kind of spontaneous awakening. The need of spirituality, honestly, if we inquire honestly, it grows where there is confusion and so on. And it's I think the main deception in the spiritual need and the consequential New Age expectation is all in the fact that the majority of the people that are willing to join a spiritual whatsoever, every kind of spiritual path, they don't understand that the point, first of all, is to ask to what we willing to follow, as searching for a spiritual solution, rather than inquiring in the reason why we are in that situation, which is a situation of need of something else.
And they still found it very hard because it's a surrender. It's not, you know, you can take someone that hardly has any education, but you tell them, I am asking you, like you said to me before, I am asking you to no longer care. And for you to say that to them, they have to understand so many different things about what you really mean when you say, I don't want you to care anymore about your feelings or about your thoughts, because then you'll find the truth. But when someone hears that for the first time or even for the 100th time, they don't understand that what Diego is really giving me is the diamond in my pocket. He's telling me there's a diamond in my pocket and that I don't have to be a beggar anymore. And all he's asking me to do is just to look in my pocket, right? They can't, when you say that, they can't hear that that's what you're really saying. All they hear is, he's asking me not to care anymore. Of course I care. I care. You know what I mean? They still have all this identification with what they think and what they believe and what they want. And who they care about and who they don't care about, and, you know, all of these different things. And it's to suddenly ask them to all of a sudden give that up. Because in their mind, if they keep, and this has happened, I'm sure, to all of us, in our minds, we keep thinking that if I keep thinking this thing and if I keep caring about this thing, even though it has brought me no peace, even though it's never brought me any happiness, one day it's going to make me happy. One day it's going to bring me what I want. Unfortunately, it's really just a person going through experience after experience after experience where they're like, I remember when Diego said to give it all up, and now I'm suddenly starting to understand why he's saying that. So it takes a human being to go through a lot of experiences to be like, oh wow, when that teacher said XYZ, this is what they were talking about. This is what they were talking about.
So how is fear born? First, we perceive, and then we think, and then we translate neurolinguistically, and then we think again, and that's the intellectual realm of the mind.
Nothing is wrong until now, but the problem comes when we live our life through what we have translated, through the intellect only.
And when one loses their intimate relationship with their inner sensitivity, and then their existence becomes entirely intellectual, including God, relationships, society, and yes, even spirituality too.
Then we start structuring everything, shaping everything into an identity. And then we identify ourselves in our identity. And then it's done deal.
Identity starts to eat our innocence, our sensitivity, and our relationship with everything. Because our identity, in order to survive, must be in constant relationship with the known. And the known is the past. And it is with our relationship from the present moment and the past that the fears grow. And that relationship is identity. That's the birth of fear, collectively and intimately shared. It's all identity, institutions, searching, rules, marks, and yes, even spirituality too. It's all about identity. So now some will think, I finally get it. It's all because I identify myself with my past. It's actually true, but it's not enough. This realization is not even the entire book of life that each one of us is living. Not even the cover of a very, very, very deep book. The liberation of fear starts here, but are you really willing and ready to go deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole of the psyche?